And there's a great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
And there's an interpretation factor too. Like you can choose to interpret certain series of words in different ways, and they're dependent upon tone, dependent upon social cues, even facial expressions, sarcasm. There's a lot of variables.
Sarcasm is difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've said is like that there could be potentially a universal language that's created through computers that particularly young kids would pick up very quickly. Like my kids do TikTok and all this jazz, and I don't know what they're doing. They just know how to do it, and they know how to do it really quickly. Like they learn really quickly, and they show me how to edit things. And it's if you taught a child from first grade on how to use some new universal language, I mean essentially like a Rosetta Stone, and something that's done that interprets your thoughts, and you can convey your thoughts with no room for interpretation, with clear, very clear, where you know what a person's saying, and you can tell them what you're saying, and there's no need for noises, no need for mouth noises, no need for these sort of accepted ways that we've sort of evolved to make sounds that we all agree. We through our cultural dictionary and we agree or certain we could bypass all that.
Yeah, we can still do it for
fun,
sentimental reasons,
right? Like campfires.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need campfires. You don't need to roast marshmallows, but it's kind of fun,
right?
I think you would, in principle, you would be able to communicate very quickly and with far more precision ideas, and language would. I'm not sure what would happen to language, but you could probably, in a situation like this, that you would be able to just, it would be kind of like the Matrix. You want to speak a different language, no problem.
Right.
Just wire it. We'll just download the program.
Whew. Right. So, at least for the first few iterations, we'll just be able to use. Like, I know that Google has their some of their Pixel buds have the ability to interpret languages in real time. Like, yeah, you can hear it, and it'll play things back to you in whatever language you choose. So it'll be something along those lines.
Yeah.
For the first few iterations.
Well, the first few iterations are. I mean, what I'm talking about is like in the limit over time. You know, with a lot of development. The first few iterations, really, in the first few versions, all we're going to be trying to do is solve brain injuries. So it's like don't worry that it's not going to sneak up on you. This will take a while.
How many years before you don't have to talk?
If the development continues to accelerate, then maybe like 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
That's quick. That's really quick.
That's the best case scenario.
No talking anymore in 5 years.
Best case scenario. But 10 years more like it.
I've always speculated that aliens could potentially be us in the future, because if you look at like the size of their heads and the fact that they have very little muscle and they don't use their mouth anymore, they have this tiny little. I mean, the archetypal alien that you see in like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they're like if you went from like Australopithecus or ancient hominid to us, what's the difference? Less hair, less muscle, bigger head, and then you just keep going. 1,000, 1,000,000, whatever year, or 5 years, whatever happens when Neuralink goes online, and then we slowly start to adapt to this new way of being, where we don't use our muscles anymore. We have this gigantic head. We can talk without words.
You could also save state. And
save state?
Save state, like save your brain state, like a saved game in a video game.
Whoa. like if you want to swap from Windows 95 to
hopefully a little better than that, but yeah.
I think we are Windows 95 right now.
Yeah. From a future perspective, probably. But yeah, I mean, you could save state. and restore that state into a biological being if you wanted to in the future. In principle, there's like nothing like from a physics standpoint that prevents this. Now you'd be a little different, but then you're also a little different when you wake up in the morning from yesterday, and you're a little different. In fact, if you say like you 5 years ago versus you today, is quite a big difference.
Yes.
So you'd be substantially you. I mean, you'd certainly think you're you.
But the idea of saving yourself and then transforming that into some sort of a biological state, like you could hang out with 30-year-old you.
I mean, the possibilities are endless.
That's so weird.
I mean, just think like how your phone you can record videos on your phone. Like, there's no way you could remember a video
Right.
as accurately as your phone or a camera, could. So, now if you've got like some version 10 Neuralink, whatever, far in the future, you could recall everything, just like it's a movie,
Crystal clear.
Including the entire sensory experience,
Emotions, everything,
everything, and play it back.
Do you think you'll be able to
you
share?
can edit it.
Edit it.
Yeah,
So you can change your past?
you could change what you think was your past. Yeah,
Well, so if you had like
this
a traumatic
whole thing right
experience-
now could be a replayed memory.
It could be.
Yeah.
It may be. What's the odds of this being a replayed memory? If you had a guess. It's more than 50%.
There's no way to assign a probability with accuracy here.
Right, but roughly. If you just had just gut instinct.
Well, I don't have a Neuralink in my brain, so I'd say right now 0%. But at the point at which you do have a Neuralink, then it rises above 0%.
The idea that we're experiencing some sort of a preserved memory is, even though it's still the same, it's not comforting. Right? For some reason, when people talk about simulation theory, they talk about the potential for this currently being a simulation. Even though your life might be wonderful, you might be in love, you might love your career, you might have great friends, but it's not comforting to know that this experience somehow or another doesn't exist in a material form that you can knock on.
Feels real, doesn't it?
Feels real, but if it's not, but the idea that it's not is for some strange reason disconcerting.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it should be disconcerting, because then if this is not real, what is?
Right.
But there's that old sort of thought experiment of like, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Right now, here's the thing: you are a brain in a vat. Then that vat is your skull.
Yes.
And everything you see, feel, hear, everything, all your senses are electrical signals. Everything is an electrical signal to a brain in a vat, where the vat is your skull.
And all your hormones, all your neurotransmitters, all these things are drugs. Adrenaline's a drug. Dopamine's a drug. Sure. You're a drug factory. You're constantly changing your state with love and oxytocin and beauty.
Sure.
Changes your state. Great music changes your state.
Absolutely. And here's another sort of interesting idea, which is, because you say, like, where did consciousness arise? Well, assuming you believe the belief in physics, which appears to be true, then the universe started off as basically quarks and leptons, and it quickly became hydrogen and helium, lithium, like basically elements of the periodic table, but it was like mostly hydrogen, basically. And then over a long period of time, 13.8 billion years later, that hydrogen became sentient. So where along the way where is consciousness? What's the line of consciousness and not consciousness between hydrogen and here?
Right. When do we call it? When do we call it consciousness? Yeah. I was watching a video today that we played on a podcast earlier of a monkey riding a motorcycle down the street, jumps off the motorcycle and tries to steal a baby.
Yeah, I saw that one. It went viral.
What is that monkey conscious? It seems like it is. It seems like it had a plan. It was riding a fucking motorcycle and then jumped off the motorcycle to try to steal a baby. Seems pretty...
The one that just dragged the baby down the street pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems pretty conscious, right?
There's definitely some degree of consciousness there.
Yeah, it's not a worm.
It's not,
It seems to be on another level. Yeah, and it's going to keep going, and that's the real concern when people think about the potential future versions of human beings, especially when you consider symbiotic relationship to artificial intelligence, it will be unrecognizable. That one day we'll be so far removed from what this is. We'll look back on this the way we look back now on, simple organisms that we evolved from. And that it won't be that far in the future that we do have this view back.
Well, I hope consciousness propagates into the future and gets more sophisticated and complex, and that it understands the questions to ask about the universe.
Do you think that's the case? As a human being, as yourself, you're clearly trying to make conscious decisions to be a better version of you, right? This is the idea of like getting rid of your possessions and realizing that you're trying to, like, I don't like this. I will try to improve this. I will try to do a better version of the way I interface with reality. That this is always the way things are. If you're moving in some sort of a direction where you're trying to improve things, you're always going to move into this new place where you look back in the old place and go, I was doing it wrong back then. So this is an accelerated version of that, a super accelerated version of that.
I mean, you don't always improve, but you can aspire to improve. You can aspire to be less wrong.
Yeah.
This is like, I think the tools of physics are very powerful. Like, just assume you're wrong and your goal is to be less wrong. I don't think you're going to, if succeed every day in being less wrong, but, if you're going to succeed in being less wrong most of the time, you're doing great.
That's a great way of putting it. Aspire to be less wrong. Mm-hmm. But then when, people look back in nostalgia about simpler times, there's that too. It's very romantic and exciting to look back on campfires.
But you can still have a campfire.
Yes.
Yeah.
But will you appreciate it when you're a super nerd, when you're connected to the grid and you have some skull cap in place of the top of your head and it's interfacing with the international language that the rest of the universe now enjoys communication with people? And we're...
Yeah, sure. I think so. Yeah, I like campfires.
I'm just worried. I mean, everyone's always scared of change, but I'm scared of this monumental change where we won't talk anymore. I mean, that thing
we'll
that you
communicate.
Just yes, but there's something about the beauty of the crudeness of language, where when it's done eloquently, it's satisfying and it hits us in some sort of a visceral way. Like, that person nailed it. I love that they nailed it. Like that it's so hard to capture a real thought and convey it in a way, in this articulate way that makes someone excited. Like you read a great quote by a wise person, it makes you excited that their mind figured something out, put the words together in a right way that makes your brain pop. Like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A clever compression of a concept.
Yeah.
And a feeling.
But the fact that a human did it, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that it'll be like electronic music? Like people won't appreciate it like they appreciate a slide guitar?
I like electronic music.
I do, too.
Yeah.
Well, you make it. I know you like it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope the future is more fun and interesting, and we should try to make it that way.
I hope it's more fun and interesting, too.
Yeah.
I just hope we don't lose anything along the way.
Yeah, we might lose a little, but hopefully we gain more than we lose.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Gaining more than we lose. Like something that makes us interesting is that we're so flawed.
It's not for sure. Like,
right.
I mean, you look at civilizations through the ages. Most of them, they rose and fell.
Yeah.
And I do think like the globalization that we have at the sort of like the meme sphere is there's not enough isolation between countries or regions. It's like if there's a mind virus, that mind virus can infect too much of the world. Like I actually sort of sympathize with the anti-globalization people because it's like, man, we don't ever want to, everywhere to be the same for sure, and then we need some kind of like mind viral immunity. So that's it's a bit concerning.
Mind viral immunity, meaning that once something like Neuralink gets established, the real concern is something that, I mean, you said it's Bluetooth, right? Or
Sure.
some future version of that. That the idea is that something could possibly get into it, fuck it up.
No, I'm talking about like there's some cockeyed concept that that happens right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I know there's viruses and embedded chips, right? Like they've embedded chips and then acquired viruses.
Well, when I'm talking about a mind virus, I'm talking about like a concept that infects people's minds.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like cult thinking or some sort of fundamentalism.
Yeah, just a wrong-headed idea that
Yes.
goes viral in an idea sense. You know.
Well, that is a problem too, right? If someone can manipulate that technology to make something appear logical or rational,
Yeah.
that would that be an issue too? This is a very have versus have not issue, right? Once this thing, if this really does, I mean, initially it's going to help people with injuries, but you said ultimately it could lead to this spectacular cognitive change.
Yes.
But the people that first get it should have a massive advantage over people that don't have it yet.
Well, I mean, it's the kind of thing where your productivity would improve, I don't know, dramatically, maybe by a factor of 10 with it. So you could definitely just, I don't know, take out a loan and do it and earn the money back real fast. Be super smart.
Well, in a capitalist society, it seems like you could really get so far ahead that before everybody else could afford this thing and link up and get connected as well, you'd be so far ahead they could never catch you. Is that a concern?
Well, I think it's not a super huge concern. I mean, there are huge differences in cognitive ability and resources already.
Yeah.
I mean, you can think of a corporation as like a cybernetic collective that's far smarter than an individual. Like I couldn't personally build like a whole rocket and the engines and launch it and everything. That's impossible. But we have 8,000 people at SpaceX, and by piecing it out to different people and using computers and machines and stuff, we can make lots of rockets launch into orbit, dock with the space station, that kind of thing. So that already exists where there's corporations are vastly more capable than an individual. But we should be, I think, less concerned about like relative capabilities between people and more like having AI be vastly beyond us and decoupled from human will.
Decoupled from human. So this is if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, I mean.
So you feel like it's inevitable, like AI, sentient AI, is essentially inevitable.
Super sentient AI, yeah. Like beyond a level that's difficult to understand.
And
impossible to understand, probably.
And somehow or another, so it's almost like it's a requirement for survival to achieve some sort of symbiotic existence with AI.
It's not a requirement. It's just if you want to be along for the ride, then you need to do some kind of symbiosis. So the way your brain works right now, you've got kind of like the animal brain, reptile brain, for argument's sake, it's like the limbic system basically, and you've got the cortex. Now the brain purists will argue with this definition, but essentially you've got the primitive brain and you've got the sort of smart brain, or the brain that's capable of planning and understanding concepts and difficult things that a monkey can't understand.